ones we'll be doing, we won't have one-on-ones, so please don't save your questions for one-on-ones afterward. You can just go ahead and ask whatever you'd like right now, and they'll be happy to try to answer it for you.
Oh, good. No questions.
Check. Ken, Derek, for either of you or both of you, just kind of the thinking behind making the decision today. What went into it?
Well, it was obviously a tough decision. These are guys that we care a lot about. They worked really hard. Their heart was in the right place. And these are always very difficult times, but it is the results business. And, you know, we're in a situation again where we believe it's time for improvement. And we're not going to criticize them. We're not going to sit up here and talk negatively about those guys, because we do really care for them. And again, thank them and applaud them for the hard work that they put in. But it's time to turn the page and hit reset and see if we can get going in the right direction. We owe that to our fans. We owe that to the organization, and that's why we're here today.
How much hold on. If you guys can just wait for the microphone, because they are carrying this away.
How much just disappointment is there with obviously these hires a couple of years ago, and you know, wanting to have a solution with, you know, a manager, a winning manager, winning GM, and not having it work out?
Well, it's, you know, there's a lot of disappointment always, especially when you're dealing with, you know, hardworking people who you care about. And you know, we made these decisions. We were involved in the hires. You know, it's, our tasks are to make the best decisions we can, and we felt now was the time to go in a new direction. And, you know, we wish both these guys well, as we told them earlier today.
Guys, you're in the results business, obviously. What did you see the results? What was the cause of the results being so poor this year?
Well, there's a lot of factors, you know, and you can't really pinpoint or finger point because there's injuries, there's bad luck, it's slow start, it's the way we played at home, just a lot of questions that we still need answered. But at the end of the day, we think we do have a tremendous amount of talent here. We expect different results, and of course the expectations were very high going into this season. But you know, as Ken said, we all take the blame on this one. We're not blaming one person, we're not blaming two people, three people. It's collective, it's everybody, and it's now time to make some strong decisions that are going to help our future.
And what is Tony's? You guys have talked about Tony looking forward. What might happen?
Yeah, we're continuing to have discussions on both sides. Really, is what the right role for Tony going forward, both from us looking to Tony and frankly him looking back at whether he wants to have a continuing opportunity here. And you know, over the next several days, that will ultimately sort itself out.
Ken, I'm curious, you've owned this franchise for a number of years. Fans are very frustrated with the lack of results. Can you put a finger as to what and why it hasn't been able to be straightened out? Because you've gone through this process. We've sat in this room many times during this ownership. Can you just
more fully develop your question?
Fans are very frustrated by this, and that they're back here with another manager and another general manager moving on. And I'm just curious, as in your ownership, why is it we have not been able to see consistent results? Can you put a finger on it for them?
Well, I mean, certainly it starts with me. We've made some bad choices. But I think when you put it in and I'm going to make some more mistakes, by the way. It won't be my last. I hope I'll be around a while, so I hope it'll take a while before we maybe have to have another one of these events. But you know, to give it a longer view, which is really, I think, my responsibility. First and foremost, it's an extremely competitive business. You know, we're dealing in an atmosphere where we have in this game a number of marketplaces that have dramatically greater resources than do we. When you look at our division in specific, we have the highest payroll in the game by far in our division. We have another very, very substantial payroll. We've, you know, frankly, when you compare us with our other peers in the Western Division, we've competed very well with San Diego and Colorado. If you go look at the track record over the the breadth of the franchise and frankly, on my watch. So we have high expectations. Our community has high expectations for us, and that we're okay with. But it's a results business. It's a tough business. We don't have much margin for error when we make a mistake, whether it be in a contract or a trade. It's much more impactful. I'm reminded this year, to use an example of the way this business works, the team with the greatest success on the field so far, and we're going into the playoffs now, is the Cubs. But if you look at the offseason, one of the worst results of an offseason move in terms of expectations, was the Jason Hayward trade or deal, the signing. It impacted them almost not at all because they had enormous resources. I mean, I don't want to go down the list, and I think that looked like, and most people in baseball, probably many of you, thought that was a heck of a signing when it was done. On our side of the table, when we make significant signings and the results are not what we hoped for at the time, it's very impactful on us. So, and at the end of the day, the results haven't been there. That's why we're here today. We're going to keep at it. We're going to hope we make better decisions than we learned from the mistakes of the past.
Derek, just out of curiosity, was there any thoughts of possibly relieving Tony LaRussa of his responsibilities as well?
It was all part of the evaluation, and we're still going through that now, Joe. What the ideal role would be if it works for him and for us, and in those decisions and discussions, and thinking back historically to when we hired Tony. At the time, it was to bring him in and take a look at our current situation and give us another set of eyes and ears, and pick his brain to really assess and evaluate what we had at the time with Kevin Towers and Kirk Gibson. So that was the initial hire. So he would come in at a higher level, created a new position that we were excited about at the time, and I think others were as well. And it just hasn't worked out as a whole, as the entire group. But that's again why we're looking now to improve. And we looked at everybody and everything, looked under the hood, and looked in the mirror as well. And it's time to make the right decisions.
I should comment a bit. Tony's an icon of the game, and the results so far don't make him any less of an icon. He's in a different position than he ever had been in. It was one that he was aggressively interested in. He's a highly competitive guy. I think he's given it everything that he could give it. I think we owe it to Tony to continue to talk about how we might be able to go forward together, and we're going to continue to have those talks.
Do you anticipate the same kind of structure, or will it be just a general manager that you're looking for going forward, and what kinds of things might you be looking for?
Well, a lot of it will be determined upon the final decision with Tony and what that job is and what that title is. But we envision a general manager that will have the responsibilities of player personnel and making those decisions. So it's a process that'll begin quickly. It's not one that we're going to want to comment on. And I remember being here just a few years ago saying we're looking for somebody to be in this role for a long time, and here we are again. Obviously, that is the goal here, with special emphasis on it this time. The focus is to find the right fit and have he or she here for a very long time with a plan that we stick to, and I'm confident we're going to find that candidate.
And what kind of qualities will you be looking for in that candidate?
I think we're going to have the best candidates on that list, Nick. I mean, there's some really good candidates out there, and we will hire the best one out of those available. But someone that's got significant experience, and obviously when it comes to player evaluation and analytics, combination of all. But someone that's got the experience and skill set that's going to fit perfectly for us.
I think there's a lot of people in baseball that are wondering if 2 years is enough time for a general manager. What made you guys confident, or was there any apprehension, I guess, in pulling the plug this quickly on Dave Stewart, and what made you confident that 2 years was enough time to get a proper evaluation?
Yeah, I think, we looked at this in terms of trend, and we did not see the trend line at the present moving in the right direction. We obviously, the most easy and direct measuring stick is numbers of wins versus losses, and clearly we were going in the wrong direction. I think you have to look beyond that and look at where do we see under the present regime, where do we see the next year or years going? And we weren't comfortable that we saw them going in the right direction. And I would comment that Tony himself made public comment that he felt that we had given them a fair timeline to perform and recognized that the performance was not there. And it's kind of interesting as you look at these things. Maybe some of you would know this, but because that comment was something, and we take serious. Are we being fair to people that we care about? Because it may not seem so, but we really cared about these guys. They're fine people, as we've said. Since Dave Stewart was hired, how many general managers have been hired in Major League Baseball? Does anybody here know but me? Since Dave Stewart was hired 2 years ago, there have been 16 general managers hired. 16. What does that tell you? It's a tough business.
Is there anything along those lines to be said for continuity about perhaps even letting a team struggle or fail, but having the same plan, having the same people in place, pushing forward?
That's a good question, and I look at it from the perspective of spending a good amount of time in Colorado, and they have practiced that. And while they did make a general manager change fairly recently, they're probably not like me saying this, but continuity in their setting produced 7 losing seasons in a row. I don't think our fans would find that very acceptable.
Is Tony a candidate for manager?
No, we haven't had that conversation.
But might he be?
No, I wouldn't say so.
No.
Yeah, I think Tony doesn't have anything left to prove as a manager.
Yeah.
Ken, just out of curiosity, I'm sorry, I don't have the mic, but in the grand scheme, you've had this team for a while now. How frustrated are you to be guiding the ship and it hasn't gone on course the way you want, and you end up in this situation, and obviously not a situation that you care to be dealing with, addressing the media, and having to make these kind of changes. So for you personally, because I know you want to be playing in October and like us all to be following the team, so how frustrating is this for you?
Well, it's highly frustrating. I mean, I'm the guy that, on the basis of what appeared to be a direction change in the positive, with a lot of people, including media, suggesting that we were a team on the rise, stepped up on behalf of myself and my partners and committed an enormous amount of money to this year's club, only to have the results that we have. So if I'm not frustrated by that, nothing will ever frustrate me. So you can count me being very highly frustrated. But at the same time, I'm about as competitive a person as you ever knew, and I'm not one to give up, and I won't. And I'm confident that things will go in a better direction, and I hope very soon.
Derek, you mentioned he or she for GM. Is Kim Ng on that list?
We don't even have a list yet. Yeah, I mean, we obviously made the decision today and had those discussions today. We will move quickly and we'll put together a list. And as I mentioned before, Brad, we're not going to want to comment on any candidates, but I do know Kim, and she's.
You worked with her, right?
I did, yeah, in Los Angeles. She's great. She's terrific.
Might the new GM have more of an analytic background than the last couple that you've had? Is that a direction maybe you might be leaning in, or?
Well, we're embracing analytics, obviously, and created a department, and it's become more and more a part of our daily preparation. And I think the industry in general is starting to see an increase in analytics, and it'll happen here as well. So I think we're going to stress analytics as we have, and it's going to be a focus, and will be an increased focus here in this organization.
You know, the thing that I think we all search for in baseball, and some more than others, is that perfect balance. You know, with analytics, but the traditional scouting and player evaluations done without specific analytical skills. And I don't think anybody has hit that over a period of time and sustained it. So it's an ever challenging part of the game.
That's right. We've tried to balance it, you know, and we haven't hit it perfectly, and so we're trying to find that, but we do need extra emphasis on analytics.
With all the changes you guys have had over the last 5 or 6 years at the GM position, is there any concern on your part how that's going to affect your ability to maybe attract qualified candidates or the best candidates?
It might. I mean, there's only 30 of these, Nick, and they're special jobs, and there's a lot of qualified people out there that are looking for that opportunity. As mentioned before, you know, we're hoping that this next person is in that role for a long time, and that will be expressed. So, you know, we've got to find the right fit. We've also made moves over the last few years that have worked. You know, I mean, I think when Kevin first came in, when KT came in, and there was a need to rebuild the bullpen and focus on our relief pitching, he did so effectively, and we made it to the playoffs that first year. We just expect more out of our ball club. We want to have more consistent baseball and championship caliber baseball year in and year out. We're not getting that right now, so we want to get back to that. And if we can just see more consistency with a plan in place, that's where we're heading.
And there have been some reports in recent weeks of you guys stepping in and maybe blocking certain decisions from happening. Do you think that the decision-making structure in your organization is sound?
In ours? Yes.
It is. You know, it's very common, I'd say, with all 30 clubs, where if you're going to have a large decision to make, a very big decision, impactful decision, it's going to go all the way up the flagpole, and everybody's going to weigh in, whether it is the owner in any ball club, the owner, president, GM. All opinions are going to be weighed at that time. So, I mean, it's a matter of allowing people to do their jobs, but also weighing in when there's a matter of extreme importance, which I think is not uncommon anywhere.
Did you all treat evidently Dave and Chip differently? Was it a package deal? How did you evaluate Chip's performance the last couple of years? Last year, an overachieving team was 79 and 83.
Well, treating them differently, I think each person stands on their own and are evaluated individually based on their performance, not, you know, we separated them out. Sure. In our evaluation.
So how did you evaluate Chip?
Well, obviously you looked at the results first and foremost, but doing your due diligence, I mean, getting reviews and getting evaluations from others as well, you know, on our staff, which we did, not on the coaching staff, but on our baseball operations staff. So a lot went into it, but package deal, absolutely not. I mean, everybody was looked at individually, and again, as we mentioned, that evaluation process is still going, you know, today.
So how did he come out deficient in your analysis?
Again, just looking at the results. I mean, you're looking at wins and losses, which really comes down to a manager and general manager. When you have a season like you did, a lot of questions have to be answered. There was question on timing. You know, when were we going to pull the trigger? Obviously, we wanted to wait till the end of the season. We've made decisions before the end of the season in the past. We didn't want to be disruptive. We wanted to get an entire season in before we made that decision, and we're able to have those meetings starting this morning and came to a decision rather quickly.
Derek, when you were asked about the qualities for the GM, you said significant experience. Where does it range for you? Obviously, Chip was a first-time manager. Dave was a first-time GM. He had experience as an assistant GM. But, I mean, would you like to hire someone that has actually done those particular jobs? And it's sometimes not easy in baseball. Sure. But where does that rank with maybe having more experience in those areas?
Experience in the game. You know, experience in player evaluation and creating rosters, not necessarily experience in that position. So we're going to put together that candidate list, and there's a lot of really strong candidates out there that have gone up for jobs already and that seem to be ready. There's several qualified candidates who, again, as we start to put it together, we think we know what that looks like, but just a good diverse group of candidates out there from different teams and probably different backgrounds as well.
You know, when you look at our history with general managers. It's an interesting one. I think there's been, frankly, some misreporting about it. That just to put the facts out. In the history of the Diamondbacks, the first general manager had never spent a day working in baseball, not one. And under his regime, we won a World Series. The next general manager was an extremely analytical guy, a highly educated guy. The third general manager was a highly experienced general manager, been to the World Series, had won division championships a number of years as a GM. And the fourth was Dave, who had a incredible playing career, had a success as a GM. So when you look at our history and those that we have hired, it's been a pretty much across the waterfront. So there is no specific pattern for success or for failure.
Derek, two-part question, the staff, what's their status as we sit here? And secondly, can you refresh managerial candidates that are on postseason rosters, currently managing or maybe coaching postseason? What are the rules, regs there?
So you're talking about coaching staff, what their status
coaching
is?
Staff first.
Our coaching staff, right now, they're meeting tomorrow morning, so they'll be here, part of meetings, and they were notified, of the decision, and that'll obviously be up to the new general manager and manager. And we also want the general manager to have the say in the process for the manager. So, any manager that is in the postseason, it would obviously be very difficult to interview. We want to get step one done first and get the general manager in place before we move on to the process for the manager, so that the general manager can have the most say in that process. But in any situation, you're going to have to ask for permission. The rules are very, very clear. You have to ask for permission and be granted that permission before you can interview.
Will anybody on this current staff?
Oh, on our staff? Be a candidate? Could be. Again, that's something that we want to discuss with the new general manager. I mean, we think we have very worthy candidates internally. We have good baseball people here, and I think they could certainly be considered for manager's job. But it's ultimately going to be up to that general manager. But I do believe we do have candidates within our own walls, yeah.
Hey, one or two last questions?
Will you be using a search firm, or is this going to be strictly you two for that?
Still deciding, but obviously it's going to include a lot of outside help. A lot of due diligence, a lot of opinions, talking to a lot of people in the industry, and we'll get through that process. But it's just beginning.
Derek, question: was the team informed of this moves today? What time were they informed, if so? And just out of curiosity, because of the turnover in the general manager position over the course of time, how do you sell someone, a potential great candidate out there, that Arizona is a worthy place to extend their career and take the next step to be a general manager?
Yeah, the team is in the players, Joe. They were not informed because a decision was made today, and as soon as we made that decision, we gathered the media. We had conversations. Actually, Tony did. Tony wanted to talk to both Stu and Chip privately, one-on-one, and as soon as those conversations took place, we put out the advisory and the release. So we have not had a chance to talk to the team. I think, this is a desirable place to be. It's a great franchise. We've had a lot of success in the past. Our culture is second to none. We're trying to have a similar culture in the clubhouse and on the field. It's a great place to live, great place to play. Our spring training facility is phenomenal. I think there's a lot of reasons why people would want to be here, and to have the strong supporting cast and new leadership and direction that I mentioned, hopefully that will be in place for a long time. I think it's an opportunity for someone to come in and expectations are obviously low at this point, which is a shame, but someone can come in and make an impact quickly. So I think that's desirable to anybody that has confidence in his or her abilities to come in here and make that impact and hopefully sustain it.
Last question.
That kind of gets to what I was going to ask. So you feel like you guys are ready to compete? I mean, you can contend next season, or do you think taking a step back could be a better decision, or how do you kind of see where you guys are right now?
It's a great question. I think we'll leave that up to the interview process, Nick. I think, we'll hear those questions answered in the interview, and ultimately when we determine who the right choice is, it's because of those questions that were answered, whether they think it's a rebuild or whether they think we have the talent, add here, or, address these holes. I mean, those are questions that we're going to have answered and addressed during the interview process, and whichever direction we go, it's because we think we heard the right answers and direction there. We don't have those answers. We don't want to have those answers. We want to hear them from our candidates.
I mean, clearly, it is a good question, and one that I think Derek said it well. I think we are going to rely now on advice and counsel from those that we're interviewing, and that one we will ultimately select to be the GM, and then from there a new manager. When you look at try to look at the results objectively, of course, the record is a very poor one this year. That's why we're here today. But there are a lot of talented players. Certainly on the on-field side, in many measurements, whether you're analytical or not, you see a lot of good results with some extraordinary performances on the part of position players. This year's pitching, has unfortunately a distinction that we hope it will be something that will never be achieved again, and that's really the worst result in terms of the numerics, not losses, but earned run average and whip and all those kinds of measurements that I don't want to get down to trying to be an analyst, because I'm not really one of them. But our pitching left a lot to be desired, and clearly is an area that we have to put focus on. And so I think we're going to be guided very much by those that we interview, and by interviewing a number of people, you'll get a body of opinion that is unfiltered, that is objective about us, that has looked at us not from being inside, and frankly not having any vested interest in those players that have played for the Diamondbacks. So we'll get a lot of good criticism, I think objective and fair criticism from professionals, and we will plug that into the ultimate decisions that we make. I think, you look back a year ago, all the evaluation, our own as well as, frankly, many of you, was that we were had a different direction, different trajectory, and clearly we're capable of being wrong on that. We have been. We hope that this time around that we'll take the advice given by others and select somebody who we think will be our best candidate. And if that means that we have to take some steps back, I mean, the example again, I used them earlier. We don't have the same patience in this community that the Cubs fans provided to them, but look at their record. In a relatively recent past, and then all of a sudden to emerge with this enormous success. So they had to take steps back to take steps forward. That's a balancing act that's a tough one in a community where the fans don't have a 100-year history of a lack of success for the most part as they have had. So they're not as forgiving, and we have to balance all of this off. And it's not an easy thing to do, but we're going to do, as we always have, the very best that we can. But we are, in this process, we're going to be guided, I think, in the ultimate decisions by feedback that we get from the interview candidates.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for being here today. We'll be in touch again shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.